You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. Today is Friday the 13th, and I was looking that up, and AI said it's not always a bad day. For some, they call the 13th a good day. So we're going to call this Friday the 13th a wonderful Black History Day, because we're going to be talking to Dr. Julianne Malvo. And then at our second guest, we're going to do Black history. Former council member Dr. Charlene Jarvis going to be talking about her new book about her father, Dr. Charles Drew. She served in the city council for 21 years, and that is truly Black history. So let's go to Dr. J to talk about more economy, I hope, but some politics. Dr. J, what you got for us?
Oh, well, first of all, I'm excited about Charlene talking about her dad, such a pivotal figure in Black history.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Black History Month, of course. And in that context, talk a little bit about Black labor. Let me start by saying, this week, a lot of the headlines are interesting because they're about hierarchy. Who gets what? Who gets paid attention to? Who gets protected? Who gets blamed? Who gets erased? Now, this week, we were supposed to get our unemployment rate numbers last week, the first Friday, and I live for first Friday as a labor economist. But of course, because of the shutdown, which was a mini shutdown, give me a break, the data did not come out until Wednesday. We are taping on Tuesday, so I don't have the Wednesday numbers. But what we know is that the labor market is in a lot of trouble. Last month, in December, we created fewer than 50,000 new jobs. The same was true in November. In October, there was a net loss of jobs. So what you see is a labor market slowing down. And that slowdown is affecting people, Lyndia, as you know. They like to give you the overall unemployment rate. Last count was 4.4%, 7.5% for Black people. So they like to give you that number, but they don't give you what's behind the numbers. There's a number called the utilization rate. The utilization rate is about 7%, but guess how much it is for Black people?
How much?
14.3%. Now, they don't report that number. I extrapolate the number, taking the relationship between utilization and the overall rate and extrapolating that for Black people. It's a mathematical exercise, no biggie, but just something that people should be aware of. When you hear these numbers, understand there's something behind the numbers. The people who want jobs but can't find them, so they're discouraged workers. They've dropped out of the labor market. The people who have part-time jobs and want full-time jobs. And what employers are doing these days, they're not necessarily laying you off, they're just cutting your hours. So we basically, every time you hear that man open his mouth, he's talking about how great the economy is. And every time he says that, I want to go to the television, grab him and say, great for who? Because it's not great for a lot of the folks that we care about and that we know about. So that's just as you look at these numbers, be clear. We won't have any other interest rate numbers for a little while, but we'll have some. But meanwhile, from my perspective, from that president's perspective, the economy is doing well. From my perspective, not so much. And just ask somebody. There are people who are doing okay, but there are a lot of people who are struggling. So now on Tuesday, Congress had hearings about immigration. There are about 8 million undocumented people in the United States. They work in agriculture and construction and food service and caregiving. Why do we have so many undocumented people? Our economy actually depends on them. If those people got up and left, we would have a big problem. But we're trying to put them out. If you look at the hearings, Mark Green, who's the chair of the House Homeland Security Committee, said that he cared about enforcement and border security. DC is not on the border,
That's right.
So they're harassing undocumented people. The Democrats, especially Pramila Jayapal, and I just adore her, push back talked about families and workers and children and the human cost, excuse me, the human cost of this system that relies on immigrant worker by denying immigrant protection. We need immigrant workers. You go ask people who are taking care of their elders. Many of them are immigrant women. Who's building stuff in the neighborhoods? Many of them are immigrant men. We understand as Black people what this is. It's work without protection, contribution without credit, blame without power. So those hearings, J. Paul had a number of immigrant families testify. The Republicans left when the immigrant families testified. They didn't want to hear it. And speaking of Republicans, that man is having a dinner for the National Governors Association, but he uninvited many of the Democratic governors. I mean, you can't have dinner and have a civil conversation. He's basically rampantly saying, I just care about Republicans. I don't care about other people. And we know that. Now, this week, we're going to be barraged with news about the Epstein files. I'm not going to get into the celebrity gossip and all that. What I'm concerned about with this is how, basically, for years, Epstein and his posse, wasn't just with Epstein and his posse, they had no accountability. Women were abused. Lots of women were abused, and we know that. Some of them have been on television, some have talked about it. Some of them were as young as 13 and 14 years old. And they have finally issued about a million more pages. They're sending this stuff out drip by drip. And members of Congress have looked at them. Tom Massey, who's the Republican, along with Ro Khanna, who's a Democrat from California. They have, Lyndia, they have 4 computers, all right? 4 computers, and that's all. So you can look at them electronically, take notes, but they're only 4. They're 435 members of Congress. So they really don't want this information to get out. But it's coming out partially. And what we know is access matters, money matters, influence matters. There's a pattern of how women are discarded. Now, let me, real quick, speaking of women, 560,000 missing persons reports are filed every year. That's 1,500 a day. Yet only a few of these make it to the national headlines, and we know which ones did. I'm not disrespecting or disparaging. I do hope that missing lady that we've heard a lot about is found. But when Black women go missing, who knows? Does anybody know anything about that? Does the FBI get involved? The FBI, how many millions of government dollars have been spent looking for this woman? I know I have out of times. I just have one more thing, and it's a fun thing, actually. I don't know if you watched the Super Bowl last week, but Bad Bunny was burning. I enjoyed him so much. It was so much fun. But he also brought a message. Latino culture is not foreign. It's American culture. And guess what, Dingbat and the house that enslaved people built? Puerto Rico is in the United States. So you want to see some American, you saw something American. It was a powerfully American. And Bad Bunny, whoever scripted him, is a genius because he mentioned the Americas. In other words, the Latin American countries. It was just amazing. I didn't know him, didn't know anything about him until this kerfluffle. I'm going to start following him now. All that energy, all those young people just dancing. That's a great way for me to end my minutes today, Lyndia, on a joyful.
All right. Thank you, Dr. J. We'll talk to you again next week. We'll go to our commercial break, and we'll be back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus. In lectures on brotherhood, Ms. Parks often said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired. But that wasn't true. I was not tired physically. I was not old. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in." Driven out of Montgomery by harassment and death threats, Detroit, Michigan became her new home. Rosa Parks will always be remembered as the mother of the civil rights movement. Raised in the AME church, she once said, "I remember finding such comfort and peace while reading the Bible."
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it. Be inspired.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the 5th podcast of the Lyndia Grant Show. We are so pleased. One of my mentors, the one and only Dr. Charlene Jarvis, and I won't go back into how long I've known her. It's been, I can say 40 plus years. I do know
Absolutely.
that. I was a girl in my late 30s when I first met her. And so I just want to know that I'm so thankful that she has agreed to talk to me today about her new book. And it is called Genius Unbroken. So about her dad in the middle of Black History Month. And it is so perfect to have her here. So I first want to just say hello to you, Dr. Jarvis, and welcome you to the show.
Lindy, I'm delighted to be here with you. We do have a very long history, starting with the Georgia Avenue Day.
Exactly. Yes, indeed. As a matter of fact, Dr. Jarvis, you met me when I was unveiling the bronze bust of Jesse Jackson. And you decided that day that you needed me because our office was in your ward. That's how it all got started.
Correct. You have a good memory.
So we're going to talk about this book today in Black History Month. And the first question I have is the father versus the scientist. Most people know your father, Dr. Charles Drew, as the father of the blood bank, but you knew him simply as Dad. What is one personal memory of him that you felt was essential to include in this biography to show the man behind the medicine?
That's a great question. And let me just also tell you and the audience that this is a book with which I collaborated with Dr. Craig Miller. Dr. Craig Miller is a cardiac surgeon. He got interested in the life of Dr. Drew. He called me and said he would really like to write. And I said, I intended to write. I have all of this material. So let's see if we can collaborate here so I can share much of what I have and you can help make sure that the writing is cogent and easy to understand. He had written books before. So I want to do a shout out for Dr. Miller. So your question is, what about the father and the scientist?
Yes.
Okay. I need to tell your audience that Dr. Drew died in 1950. That was when I was 8 years old. There are 4 Drew children. The first one is Bibi, who was named by the nurses at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital for blood bank. And she's called Bibi. I'm named for Charles and Lenore, my mother and my father. My other sister is Rhea Sylvia. My father named her because he liked Greek and Roman history, and it was Charles R. Drew Jr. So there were 4 of us. We've lost Charlie, unfortunately. My dad was a strict disciplinarian, and he made sure that we were walking in the straight and narrow, and that we were being raised along with my mom with the proper approach to the world, and that in the home we were doing as we were supposed to be doing. So I do remember we lived on College Street on Howard University campus. We had 3 floors. I was coming downstairs from the 3rd floor, and my father walked by and he said, "Good morning." And I did not respond to him. I cannot remember why I did not
I was getting ready to ask you that question, Dr. J.
I did not remember why I didn't respond to him. And so he said, "Well, just sit there until you think you want to respond to me, and I'll come back." So he wanted behavior to be on the straight and narrow. I remember being outside without my shoes. I was not to be outside without my shoes, and I cut my foot very badly. And my mother put me in a little red wagon, wrapped my foot, and I saw my father coming down the street because we lived near the hospital, Freedman's Hospital. I saw him coming down the street with his tie and his coat, waving in the back, and I thought, oh my goodness, if I could just stop the bleeding.
You don't want him to catch that.
No. But he was kind.
I was getting ready to say, because you were injured and he couldn't be mean to you at that moment.
No. He was kind, and he was a teacher, always a teacher.
Good. All right. Well, I like that story. His life's motto, your father often said, and I've heard you say this on my show before, quote, "Excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barriers created by men."
Yes.
How did you see him live out that motto in his daily life and work?
Excellence of performance was the motto by which he lived. Whether he was on the football field because he was an outstanding athlete, whether he was in the classroom. I must say, when he was at Dunbar High School, he got so interested in sports that he might have had some excellent performance there, but he was admitted to Amherst College and went on to McGill University. So he was 3rd in his class from the medical school at McGill. So he believed, and he said to his residents that excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barriers. So do not fall back into you are limited because of your color, because of your race, because you're a woman, because you've come from Africa, because you speak Spanish. In other words, his rule was excellence of performance will overcome any of those barriers.
I love that. I remember when you said it before, I thought, this is this is such a great thing to remember, because excellence of performance is something that my mom always said. She just didn't say it in that way.
Yes.
And you knew my mother.
I did.
So my mother would tell us, to me it's similar, be the best at whatever it is you do.
Yes.
Always. She said, I don't care if it's cleaning the bathroom, whatever it is you're doing.
Yes.
Always do it as if you had supervision and that you cared about what it is. So I love that. Excellence of performance will overcome any artificial barrier created by men. So I love that.
Yes.
All right. So the next question I have is on his legacy and impact. a life-saving innovation. Can you explain in simple terms how your father's work with blood plasma changed the world during World War II and how it saves lives even today?
Yes, Lydia, thank you. My father's research, my father had an MD degree from McGill, and then he went to Columbia University, where he earned a PhD called Doctor of Science, and in a field that he was studying, which was blood storage. And what Dr. Drew discovered was that you could remove the yellow plasma from red blood, and that plasma could be preserved instead of whole red blood. So that, we can't take blood to the battlefield. And so there needed to be a way that you could transfer blood-saving plasma to the battlefield once it was removed and dried. And after that process, then at the battlefield, what you're looking at is dried plasma. Then the fluid, water, can be added to the plasma, and that plasma can be transferred to the patient. And so there were critical there were critical points of combat in the Second World War at El Alamein, for example, where the German and the British were fighting. Now, this is Second World War, so we're talking about a contest between the Germans and the British. The British soldiers at El Alamein had plasma. The German soldiers at El Alamein did not have plasma. The British soldiers were able for the first time to overcome the German army because of the presence of plasma that their soldiers were able to have in the heat of war. So it really made the difference between life and death in the Second World War. And that's why when I began to read about my dad, I kept on reading about Blood for Britain, because he was asked to lead the Blood for Britain project during the Second World War.
I love that, because it made a difference in helping them win. Because
it did.
Yes.
It helped them win the Second World War against the Germans.
Yes. Next is champion for civil rights. Beyond the lab, your father was a fierce advocate for equal health care. What was his biggest frustration with the medical systems of his time, such as the American Red Cross and its blood segregation policies?
My father took great issue with the segregation of blood. The segregation of blood was really promoted by the military, and the Red Cross was following the military's dictates. And my father said there is no reason to segregate blood on the basis of race. It is the same for all of us. Blood is separated by blood type. You can be A or B or O, but it is blood for humans is the same whether you're in Germany, whether you're Black, whether you're Scandinavian. And he argued vociferously against the segregation of blood. And very fortunately, there were two people who were African Americans who were in the War Department at very high levels. James Evans was one of those people, and Bill Hasty was another one of those people. And so they worked in tandem, this trio, to make sure that the military would change the policy with respect to the segregation of blood.
Wow, it was so good. It reminds me a little bit of today, things that happen today.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, when are we ever going to let this go? So,
well, the current furor about this president and his postings indicates to us that people still hold on to these notions. And I think, honestly, there's a lesson to be learned from this.
I do
right?
too.
There's a lesson to be learned to teach people that you're not looking back at people of color and their origin any differently
No.
than
This
you're
many
going to
years
look.
later. That's right.
That's right.
Way
Any
back.
differently that you are going to look at the other people. They simply come from a different part of the country, although Africa seems to be the place where we actually started.
We thank you so much for being our guest today.
Lyndia, it's been delightful. You know, I love you, and it's been a long time.
I love you too.
But
yes,
I'm delighted that we've come together in this way.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And thank you so much. All right, you've been listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things. Dr. Charlene Drew Jarvis in the middle of Black History Month. This tape is going to be for my radio show. We're going to pick the part we want for the radio show with Dr. Julian Malvo for this Friday. But then when you want to hear the rest, you got to go to the YouTube channel, Think on These Things, and click the podcast, and you'll be able to hear it. So thank you all. Good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on These Things with your host, Lyndia Grant.
Washington and former religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Paul was one of the great encouragers. In fact, in 1 Thessalonians, he says, "Therefore encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. And we exhort you, brethren, admonish the idle, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with them all. See that none of you repays evil for evil, but always seek to do good for one another and all." We should encourage each other at every opportunity. That's a key to raising great kids. And in churches and in businesses, that's how to be a good leader. So encourage your children, your friends, believers and non-believers. It will help them become better people, and you will be a better person too. And happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at WashingtonInformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.